What is the first thing to do when crossing the Douluo continent and becoming the 8 sacrifices of the martial soul hall? Slaughter Bibi Dong, slaughter Tang San, slaughter Tang Hao, and give the mainland a bright future. What if I can't kill it? What kind of person is I, Ji Wudao? A man can bend and stretch. I will definitely do it next time. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. I offer 8 offerings, 1,000 snow protectors. Without a pop-up window, Douluo. I offer 8 offerings, 1,000 snow protectors. Download the complete set of TXT, Douluo. I offer 8 offerings, 1,000 snow protectors. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Guardian, Ji Wudao. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1 Guardian, Ji Wudao. The preliminary round for advanced Soul Masters across the continent has ended, and the Shrek team has successfully advanced. Due to Tang San's outstanding performance, Xue Qinghe has developed a desire to recruit. In a quaint room with luxurious decoration, there is also a huge tea table in the middle, and sitting on the seat is the crown prince of the Tiando Empire, Suiking. Golden short hair, dressed in noble attire, with elegant demeanor, waiting for the arrival of Tang San and the head of the 7 Treasures Glass sect, Ning Fengji. And standing next to her is the 8th deity in the temple, Ji Wudao. Ji Wudao, a time traveler, has traveled to the Douluo continent very early. She has innate soul power and is a martial soul sword type soul. She joined the martial soul hall and became the 8th worshipper in the hall. Her current strength is level 96 Super Douluo. In the early years, when Qian Renxue was born, he was bound to the system of the Bright Moon Guardian, and the bound object was Qian Renxue. Every time Qian Renshue's soul power increased by 10 levels, he would receive a guardian reward until the opponent became a god, and he would receive rich rewards. And Qian Rengshu grew up as Ji Wudao watched. Although Ji Wudao, according to his seniority, should have called him uncle, Qian Rengshu wanted to affectionately call Ji Wudao Ji brother. Brother Ji, Tang San, do you think we have a chance to recruit someone from our side? Qian Renxue asked. Ji Wudao next to her expressed her opinion. Tang San is quite deep in the city, and our martial soul hall has a grudge against him for killing his mother. If he doesn't kill him, he may become a major disaster in the future. The current martial soul hall, which appears to be a whole, actually split many years ago, becoming Bibi Dong led by the Papal Hall and Qian Rengshu led by the Sacrificial Hall. The Temple of Worship cannot command Bibi Dong. Similarly, the Temple of Worship is also Yin Feng Yang disobedient to Bibi Dong's orders. Moreover, Bibi Dong even had a murderous heart towards Qian Renxue. Otherwise, Qian Renxue would not have come to the heavenly Dou Empire to replace Xue Qinghe. To fight for a breath, and also to stay away from the vortex of the martial soul hall, which is currently filled with undercurrents. A hint of killing intent flashed in Qian Renshue's beautiful eyes and he said, since Brother Ji thinks this person cannot be recruited, then let's kill him. Qian Renxue did not hesitate. Upon learning that Tang San might not have been recruited, she was moved to kill him. The other party was the son of Haotian Douluo Tang Hao, who was also her father's slayer. Since the other party could not be recruited, let the other party not grow up and become a major threat to her. Kill him and nip the danger in the bud. Over the years, she has been deeply influenced by Ji Wudao, and even the slightest harm to herself will be stifled. At that moment, the door opened and a middle-aged man walked in. He was dressed in white and wore a headband. This man was not someone else, but rather Ning Fengji, the leader of the 7 Treasures and Glass sect, and next to him was Tang San. Seeing Ning Fengji coming, Qian Renxue stood up and bowed to her, saying, "Teacher, you're here." Ning Fengji helped Qian Renxue up and said, "Tang San, this is the crown prince of the heavenly Dou Empire, Xueqing River." Tang San glanced at Qian Renxue and then fixed his gaze on Ji Wudao, muttering to himself, "This person is like a sharp sword, with evil energy surrounding his body. It's not easy." Tang San smiled and said, Tang San has seen His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Tang San saluted towards the Shueqing River. Shueqing smiled and said, why don't you call me the Crown Prince? I would rather you call me Snow Brother. Then the three of them sat down, while Ji Wudao was brewing tea and pouring water for them. Your Highness, the reason why you came today is mainly because of Tang San's father, Douluo. I believe you should have some understanding, said Ning Fengji. Tang San arched his hand on the side and said, Your Highness, please inform me of my father's situation. Tang San will receive a heavy thank you in the next 3 days. Qian Renxue took a sip of tea and then said seriously, Douluo. Are you the son of Douluo? Although Qian Renxue had already known, she still pretended not to know and asked in confusion. Tang San nodded and said, Your Highness, my father is Douluo. Please inform me of my father's situation. Qian Renxue nodded and said, It is rumored that more than a decade ago, Douluo, also known as your father, obtained a precious treasure. Because of this treasure, the Martial Soul Hall poured out, and there was also the previous pope in the Martial Soul Hall. Therefore, your father had a great war with the Martial Soul Hall. Soon after, the previous pope died and the new pope ascended to the throne, and your father disappeared without a trace, even the Haotian sect went into hiding. A precious treasure, the Martial Soul Hall, I am not compatible with you. You already have a way to take death. Tang San thought to himself, with a strong killing intent flashing in his eyes. This scene was naturally captured by Qian Renxue, who sneered from the bottom of his heart, Do you want revenge? I'm afraid you don't have this opportunity anymore, you can't use it for me, it will become a big disaster in the future. Afterwards, the three of them chatted for a while, and Tang San was ready to get up and leave. He immediately asked, Your Highness, may I know who is next to you? Tang San was very curious about the person next to Qian Renxue. The other person felt very dangerous to him, very dangerous, and not like an ordinary guard. Qian Renxue glanced at Ji Wudao and smiled, Tang San, this is my guard named Ning Wuk, a Soul Douluo powerhouse. Tang San was shocked in his heart. No wonder, he turned out to be a Soul Douluo powerhouse. However, under his purple extreme demon eyes, the opponent's body was surrounded by evil energy, which was clearly not something that a Soul Douluo powerhouse could possess. The other party definitely killed a lot of people, otherwise, it would be difficult to develop such a bad aura. Subsequently, Tang San bowed to the two and took early leave. He had other things to do. Ning Fengji walked out with Qian Renxue and looked at Tang San's departing figure, saying, Your Highness, Tang San has excellent talent and a pure and kind nature. If you want his help, you can only become friends instead of soliciting it. Ning Fengji gave the other party advice and explained his views on Tang San. In his view, Tang San is a hidden dragon. Once the hidden dragon emerges from the abyss, it will soar into the sky, which will be of great help to Shueqing River. Qian Renxue smiled and said, Master, I know now. Don't worry, even if it's not successful, I won't treat Tang San unfairly. Upon hearing this, Ning Fengji nodded in satisfaction and left. Tang San's help, I don't think I need it, Master. Qian Renxue watched as Ning Fengji left and completely disappeared from her sight before she withdrew her gaze and walked towards the room. Be sure to finish reading, it's important for the author. Thank you all. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Ji Wudao's Killing Intention. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Ji Wudao's Killing Intention. Qian Renxue returned to the room, sat down, took a sip of tea, and said, Brother Ji is indeed right. I'm afraid this son cannot be used for me. He has a deep hatred towards our Martial Soul Hall. I can see endless killing intent in his eyes. When Tang San arrived, Qian Renxue kept looking at the other party, and their eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Naturally, they couldn't hide it from him. Since it couldn't be used by her, let's destroy it. Ji Wudao smiled and filled Qianren Shui with tea, saying, "What do you want to arrange, young master?" Upon hearing this, Qianren Shui's face darkened and he said, "Brother Ji, it's been so many years. Why haven't you changed your mind? You know my intentions clearly." Qianren Shui looked at Ji Wudao with questioning, and after years of getting along, she had already realized that her love for Ji brother was definitely not just an ordinary sibling relationship, but a higher level of love. But the other party has been keeping silent on her, which makes her very angry. Ji Wudao naturally knew Qianren Shui's intentions and said, "I know, but not now." Qianren Shui asked, "Why? Is there anything more important than this?" She couldn't figure it out, as they had been together for a long time. Qianren Shui's love for him overflowed directly. "Let's wait until the mainland is unified. Have you forgotten your wish? To achieve the reunification of the mainland, I will always assist you. Until then, I won't have any ulterior motives." Ji Wudao said solemnly. Actually, it's not the case, mainly because he's afraid of affecting the opponent's cultivation. Now, Qianren Shui is already a Soul Emperor, and it's unlikely that he will break through to Soul Saint in 2 years. Qianren Shui frowned and wanted to say something, but Ji Wudao spoke up, "Young master, let's talk about Tang San's situation. How do you plan to solve this hidden threat?" Qianren Shui was a bit angry and turned her head, saying, "Kill it. How else can we solve it? The other party is the owner of the twin martial souls. Once they grow up, they may pose a greater threat than Tang Hao. In recent years, many branches of the martial soul hall have suffered Tang Hao's revenge. For Tang San, Qianren Shui is an extremely simple 2 words, kill. Once it's over, he won't let this threat grow. Once the other person grows, they will become a stumbling block on her path. When to kill? How to kill? Is it just a simple 2-word kill?" Ji Wudao smiled. Qianren Shui stood up and looked out the window with her hands on her back. She said, "Isn't there Brother Ji here? Then everything will be left to Brother Ji. I believe Brother Ji won't disappoint me." Ji Wudao shook her head helplessly. This girl has always been like this. When the other party arrived at the Heavenly Dou Imperial City, due to his own influence, he uprooted countless dissidents for Qianren Shui and replaced them with their own people. Since the young master has said it, the rest will be left to me. When they go to the martial soul city, I will take action. They won't survive. Ji Wudao promised. He is familiar with the plot, so of course he won't give Tang San a chance. Take advantage of the fact that the other party hasn't fully grown yet and stand up, strangle them. On the other hand, after Tang San left, he came to the hotel. At this point, the rest of the people in the hotel have been waiting for a long time. Ning Rongrong approached with a smile and asked, "Third brother, have you seen Brothers Weeking?" The others also cast curious glances, waiting for Tang San's answer. Tang San nodded and said, "I've seen it, and I've also got what I want to know." Xiao Wu asked curiously, "What's going on, third brother?" Her beautiful eyes were full of curiosity. What exactly is it that makes her third brother attach so much importance to it? Tang San sat down and looked at the curious crowd, explaining the whole story to them. Xiao Wu covered her mouth, unable to believe that it was actually the martial soul hall. And her third brother actually has an irreconcilable hatred towards the martial soul hall. She also has an irreconcilable hatred towards the martial soul hall. The current pope of the martial soul hall, Bibi Dong, killed her mother and absorbed the soul ring. If it weren't for her being protected and left by the Ming dynasty, she would probably have died in the hands of the other party. Dai Mabai comforted Tang San and said, "Xiao San, no matter what you do in the future, we will stand with you. Who made us the Shrek 7 monsters?" The rest of the people also expressed their opinions, and Ma Hongjun said, "What kind of martial soul hall is not martial soul hall? When we become stronger in the future, we will definitely avenge third brother. OSK also meant the same thing. After this period of time, the 7 of them became even more inseparable from each other, and with the spiritual medicine gifted by Tang San, they all received significant improvements. As for the elixir, Wudao had searched for the location of the eyes of ice and fire, but couldn't find it and didn't have time, so he gave up. In addition, Qianren Shui has just replaced Zuiking, and there is no time. Even now, Zuiking's position in the Tiando Empire has been completely stabilized through their efforts. I have vaguely regarded Tang San as the trend of becoming the boss. Tang San looked at Dai Mabai and the others with a moved expression, saying, "Dai boss, everyone." At this moment, Yu Xiaojiang walked in and looked at the crowd, saying, "I need to leave for a while. During this time, you must not slack off, okay?" Upon hearing that the master was leaving for a period of time, everyone was curious. "What is the master going to do?" Tang San asked, "Teacher, what are you going to do?" After thinking for a moment, Yu Xiaojiang didn't say anything about it. Instead, he said, "It's an extremely important matter, so you don't need to know. I'll leave first." The most important thing he said is to go find Bibi Dong and ask for the cultivation method of twin martial souls. Although he is known as a master, he doesn't know everything. Only one person on the mainland knows how to cultivate twin martial souls, and that is the Pope Bibi Dong of the Martial Soul Hall. His white moonlight. Tang San looked at Yu Xiaojiang's departing figure and thought to himself, what important thing is it that made the teacher leave so urgently? But obviously, he wouldn't know the answer unless Yu Xiaojiang personally spoke up and explained the whole story. Due to the end of the qualifiers, Fran had a painful meal with 7 people tonight, and the happiest one among them was Ma Hongjun, who was a reliable foodie. In this competition, Fran made a lot of money and instantly became wealthy. He took the 7 of them to the busiest place in the Heavenly Do Imperial City to have a meal and let them eat to their heart's content. He paid the bill. Seeing Dean Fran, who has always been stingy, so generous, Ma Hongjun went straight through all the items on the menu. When checking out, looking at such a large expense, Fran felt a pang of pain. These little monsters really treat him like a landlord, they don't know how to write the word frugal at all. After finishing their meal, the 7 people left the restaurant satisfied, and tomorrow they will embark on a journey to the Martial Soul City. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Hunting begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Hunting begins. The next morning, all the Soul Master teams that had advanced had been waiting for a long time. This time, their destination was the Martial Soul City, where they were going to participate in the final. And Qianren Shui also arrived late at this time and said, "Let's go." Subsequently, one carriage after another headed towards the outside of Tiando City, and it took more than half a month to reach the sphere of influence belonging to the Martial Soul Hall. On a barren land, carriages were so conspicuous and eye-catching. On a mountain peak, a man in black carried his hands on his back and said, "The plan begins, don't fail, otherwise everyone will be punished under the Pope's crown." A group of soul masters behind the man in black expressed themselves and said, "Don't worry, Elder. We won't fail. These geniuses who cannot be used by our Martial Soul Hall will all die here. Their plan is to strangle all the geniuses that cannot be used for their Martial Soul Hall in the cradle. This is a task given to them by the Pope, and they have directly sent an elder named Douluo to assist." Inside the carriage, Xiaowu and Tang San were in the same carriage. Xiaowu leaned out and looked at the surrounding environment, which was desolate with overlapping mountains and lifeless. She said with some palpitations, "Third brother, how could I have a bad feeling?" She expressed her thoughts in her heart, and as soon as she arrived at the sphere of influence of the Martial Soul Hall, she had a bad feeling, not knowing why this was happening. Tang San placed Xiao Wu's hand in his palm and tightly grasped it, comforting him, saying, "It's okay, nothing will happen. This is the sphere of influence of the Martial Soul Hall. If we encounter any problems, then all the blame will be directed towards the Martial Soul Hall. I believe the Martial Soul Hall will not do such a thing. At least, Tang San thinks so. The Martial Soul Hall wouldn't really do such a thing and make them the target of public criticism, right? Soon, they arrived at a valley where the road was very narrow and could only accommodate 2 carriages at most. The Knights of the Heavenly Do Empire are at the forefront to escort it. On the mountaintop, a group of people in black looked at the carriages below the valley and said, "The plan is starting." Subsequently, the mountain peak exploded with a loud bang, blocking the only path for the participating Soul Masters. The knights felt a little uneasy as they watched the scene before them, and began to move stones and clear the road. Xian Renxue sensed the movement and got off the carriage, saying, "What happened ahead? Why did it stop?" She asked the knight beside her, and the knight arched his hand and said, "Your Highness, there is a situation ahead. The mountain has collapsed, blocking our path. We need to repair it for a while before we can move forward normally." Upon hearing this, Qian Renxue was somewhat puzzled. Could it be Brother Ji who took action? This is not like Brother Ji's style, and he immediately said, "Accelerate the speed, don't let it affect our itinerary." "Yes, Your Highness the Crown Prince." After speaking, the knight stepped forward and began to urge. And here, a man in black descended from the sky and surrounded everyone from front to back. The knight at the forefront looked at the man in black in front of him and shouted, "Who dares to block the team of our Heavenly Do Empire?" The knights held long spears and looked vigilantly at the black-clothed man in front of them. Their intuition told them that the black-clothed man in front of them was very dangerous, extremely dangerous, and they needed to deal with it with care. A man in black released his martial soul, and a huge black bear appeared behind him. He quickly completed the possession of his martial soul, and his body was raised a bit. He spoke coldly, "Who, the one who killed you?" Immediately, the Soul Master engaged in a fierce battle with the members of the Knights, which was almost one-sided. The ordinary Knights were no match for the Soul Master and were easily solved by the Soul Master. And a group of participating college teams also heard the sound of fighting, quickly got off the car, joined in, and helped the Knights. And Frank and Lu Erlong from Shrek College came to the carriage of Shueqing River to protect its safety, while Zhao Wuji was protecting the little monsters. What happened? Dean Frand. Qian Renxue asked with a puzzled expression. This was definitely not arranged by Brother Ji, and she could be certain that it was another force. And she has already guessed who arranged it, Bibi Dong. It seems that the other party has the same idea as her, but they think more. Hunting more is not conducive to the genius soul masters in the Martial Soul Hall, and her goal is to kill someone, Tang San. Dean Frand respectfully said, "Your Highness, we have been surrounded and killed. Now the knights and the leaders of various colleges have joined us. We have many leaders from Shrek College, so we are here to protect your Highness's safety." Qian Renxue did not refuse and said very tactfully, "That's Dean Lufrand." At this moment, Tang San and the others got off the carriage and looked around. The knights, mentors, and the black-clothed man were already fighting together. "Teacher Zhao Wuji, what happened?" Tang San asked in confusion. They were actually surrounded and killed within the power of the Martial Soul Hall. Who is so brave? Is it the Martial Soul Hall itself? He shook his head immediately. It's impossible. If it were the Martial Soul Hall itself, they would be the target of public criticism in the future. Surround and kill the genius soul masters of various colleges, and there will be no place for them to hide in the Martial Soul Hall on the mainland. Zhao Wuji protected everyone in front of him and said, "We have been surrounded and killed, but we don't know which faction it is, so you must closely follow me and be on guard. Many contestants have already died here." Upon hearing this, Ning Rongrong was somewhat surprised and said, "Surprisingly, some contestants have already died here. It's so tragic. Would we be in danger?" The rest of the people also have the same idea, are they in danger? Zhao Wuji sneered and said, "Don't worry, little monsters. I will protect you. As long as you don't run around, we won't be in any danger. As for the other students, let's seek more blessings. If we die, we'll have one less opponent." This is Zhao Wuji's idea. Just protect the little monster in front of you. As for the other students, seek blessings for themselves. If they die, they will die, and it has nothing to do with them. Everyone nodded in agreement with teacher Zhao Wuji's decision. After all, they were already in dire straits and had no leisure to care about others. On the other hand, the Dragon Lord and Snake Lady were already engaged in a fierce battle with a tidal Douluo. None of them expected that there would be another tidal Douluo surrounding them this time. So, the two of them have the ability to merge martial souls and can barely deal with this tidal Douluo. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Arrival of Wudao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Arrival of Wudao. At this moment, a handsome young man with white hair and clothes appeared in front of Zhao Wuji, almost instantly. The young man was a bit angry, and Nan said, "It's really despicable that someone took action earlier than me." Wudao was a bit angry when someone from the papal palace suddenly appeared and broke his plan to kill Tang San. It was easier at this stage. "What kind of person are you?" Zhao Wuji exclaimed in shock. Suddenly, this person appeared in front of him, and he was completely unaware of it. This person's strength was definitely above him, and he may still be a Soul Douluo powerhouse. As the seven monsters looked at the sudden appearance of Wudao, they all became vigilant and activated their martial souls to prepare for battle. Tang San even took out the prepared Juga crossbow, and if the opponent made a move, the Juga crossbow would shoot them out of the horse's nest. Wudao looked at the crowd playfully, pressed her hand, and said, "Don't be nervous, don't be nervous. I'm just here to kill someone, there's no need to be so nervous." Zhao Wuji was taken aback for a moment. It turned out that he was killing someone, but he didn't know who he was. He hoped he wouldn't have any connection with them, so they wouldn't be harmed. Zhao Wuji asked, "I don't know who your excellency is going to kill." His tone was very gentle and he didn't dare to easily offend the other party. Wudao looked at Tang San and rubbed his chin, saying, "It's not anyone else either. His name is Tang San." Upon hearing this, whether it was Zhao Wuji or the others, they were all facing a formidable enemy. Surprisingly, this person was the one who killed their third brother and would never let the other party succeed. "We won't let you succeed, just die with this heart." Ning Rongrong stood in front of Tang San, followed closely by Xiao Wu and others. Ning Rongrong glared angrily at the other person and said, "If you want to kill third brother, unless you also kill us, I believe that 7 treasures and glass sect is not something you can offend." Ning Rongrong is not afraid of the other party at all. She is the little princess of the 7 treasure glass sect. If she dies here, the other party will be relentlessly pursued by the 7 treasure glass sect. After all, the 7 treasures glass sect is one of the most powerful sects on the entire continent, and one of the upper 3 sections. Although the others did not speak, they also made a statement and protected Tang San behind them. Tang San looked at the crowd and was obviously very moved. He said, "Since your excellency is here to kill me, please spare my other companions, as well as teacher Zhao Wuji. I am willing to die." "Humph, little monster, I haven't spoken yet." No matter what the opponent's strength is, teacher Zhao Wuji is not afraid of him. As he spoke, Zhao Wuji released his martial soul, and the powerful diamond bear appeared, completing the possession of the martial soul. His height had increased by a few points, and 7 soul rings of yellow, purple, black, and black began to appear under his feet, making him a soul saint. "If you want to kill my student, first ask my martial soul if you agree." Zhao Wuji angrily rebuked, protecting everyone behind him and looking at Wudao. At this moment, he saw that the other party was already looking at a dead person. As long as the opponent is not a tidal Douluo powerhouse, even if it is a soul Douluo, he has the confidence to fight against the opponent without losing. Wudao was really amused by this scene and said with a smile, "Do you think this can stop me? With your soul saint level, or with the group of students behind you, or with the little thing in Tang San's hand?" Seeing that Wudao had pointed it out, Tang San no longer hid and took out the Zhuge divine crossbow. The others also took out the Zhuge divine crossbow one after another and pointed it at Wudao. As long as the other party had any abnormal movements, they would mercilessly pull the trigger and then beat the other party into a sieve. Just as Wudao took a step forward, the 7 of them instantly pulled the trigger and shot countless arrows towards Wudao. And the arrow stopped in mid-air just 5 centimeters away from Wudao, as if there was an invisible shield blocking all attack blocks. Wudao looked at the arrow curiously and said, "It's really a powerful little thing, but that's all." As he spoke, his soul power began to surge, shaking all the arrows away. The first soul skill. Immovable King's Body, the second soul skill. Powerful Diamond Palm. The third soul skill. Double Gravity. With a full stack of slaps, Zhao Wuji exerted all his strength to slap Wudao, and strong winds howled past one after another. And Wudao gently raised his index finger, and then with a bang, Zhao Wuji's attack did not even make him take a step back, even half a step. What a powerful attack! Is this the immortal King Zhao Wuji? It's really powerful, it made me use a finger, Wudao said playfully. At this moment, Zhao Wuji had already become numb. The shocking scene before him had made him numb. His powerful attack was easily blocked with just one finger. "So, do you still have any moves, Lord Ming? If you don't release them now, you won't have a chance later," Wudao smiled. At this moment, Wudao, to put it simply, is playing cat and mouse. To be honest, he is just a wave. Anyway, his strength is so strong, it is not recommended to play with these little guys for a while. Zhao Wuji withdrew his palm and said to the crowd behind him, "Run quickly, I'll hold him back." Looking at this scene, although everyone was very reluctant, they knew that they were completely burdensome here. Even teacher Zhao Wuji's attack was easily resolved by the other party, and they were of no use here. Later, Ning Rongrong released his martial soul and covered everyone with all the bonuses, saying, "Teacher Zhao Wuji, take care." Speaking, Ning Rongrong rushed out first, followed closely by Tang San and others. Oski even made flying sausages, making their speed more agile. Fifth soul skill. Gravity squeeze. Immediately, Wudao felt as if the surrounding space was squeezing him, but there was no damage. His soul power was surging, and the spinning was lifted. The sixth soul skill. Powerful King Kong roar. Zhao Wuji opened his mouth and suddenly roared towards Wudao. Dao Dao's sound wave headed towards Wudao's position, but Wudao ignored the sound wave and approached Zhao Wuji with a smile, saying, "Is this your proud attack? It's just a toy." Zhao Wuji looked at the other person with a frightened expression and said, "I still have the true martial soul body." Just as he was about to release his martial soul true body, Wudao suddenly grabbed the opponent's hand, then snapped and broke it. Wudao threw Zhao Wuji aside like throwing garbage and said, "There's no need." Then, Wudao took a quick step and disappeared here. Lying on the ground, Zhao Wuji's face was painful and his whole body was convulsing. He was certain that the opponent was definitely a powerful Douluo with a title. "Little monsters, please seek your own blessings. Teacher, I am powerless." After speaking, Zhao Wuji fell into a coma. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Wang Tai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Wang Tai. The 7 monsters were running vigorously, not daring to slack off at all, especially Tang San, who ran the fastest. After all, the person behind him was going to kill him. "Run, can you run away? I only killed Tang San, it has nothing to do with the others." Ji Wudao said coldly, accelerating her speed a few points. The protagonist Tang San, the son of Douluo's face, who knows if there are any special circumstances that have arisen. Subsequently, Ji Wudao suddenly accelerated his speed and came to the front of the 7 people in an instant. The 7 people stopped in an instant, while the other 6 protected Tang San behind them with a look of death as if returning home. If you want to kill third brother, you must kill us first. Xiao Wuqiang said fearlessly. She had lost her mother, and now Tang San is all she has. The rest of the people are the same. Tang San has great kindness to them. Unless they are killed, they will not let Ji Wudao kill Tang San. Hey, it's really a touching scene, but Tang San, are you really willing to let your partner die with you? Answer. Ji Wudao smiled. Without hesitation, Tang San approached the crowd with dignity and said, "Since your excellency only wants my life, then come and take it." Tang San regards death as if he were returning home. At the same time, Tang San has also prepared the small number of Yenluo stickers. As long as the other party is not careful, the Yenluo stickers will take their lives, even if they are titled Douluo. Then I'm here, ready to die. Ji Wudao walked slowly towards Tang San, who had already closed his eyes. Just as Ji Wudao was about to take action, Tang San suddenly threw a thin needle, emitting a black aura, flying towards Ji Wudao Ji, and its position was on Ji Wudao's doorstep. What a cunning kid. Fortunately, I saved a hand. Ji Wudao muttered to herself. The other party was Tang San. How could they possibly accept their fate? As expected. A soul power barrier blocked the fine needle from outside, and Ji Wudao reached out and held it in his hand. This thing unexpectedly brought him a sense of crisis. Wang Tai, he has not run away, and is one of the most vicious hidden weapons. If it hits and pierces the defense, it will instantly turn into blood and water. Ji Wudao looked at the fine needle in his hand and put it back into the soul guide, saying, "Kid, it seems you don't want to die peacefully. Then let your partner bury you." As he spoke, Ji Wudao released his martial soul, and a long sword, the Breaking Sha sword, a top-level martial soul, and a systematically enhanced martial soul appeared in his hand. Then the soul ring appeared under my feet, yellow, purple, black, 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 red. The 9 soul rings are truly top-notch configuration of the title Douluo. The system does not increase the lifespan of soul rings. It only helps. Surprisingly, it's a title Douluo. I see, it seems that Tang San will die here today. Tang San was already disheartened at this moment, no wonder the other party could easily defeat teacher Zhao Wuji. No wonder the other party was able to catch his Wang Tai. It turned out that the other party was actually a title Douluo. The strongest of the continent. Title Douluo. The others were also surprised, and it turned out to be a title Douluo who came to kill Tang San. Although you are a title Douluo, if you want to kill third brother, just kill us first. The 6 of them blocked in front of Tang San. What about the title Douluo? If I die here, you will be endlessly assassinated by the 7 treasures and glass sect. Ning Rongrong stood in front of Tang San and said, firmly believing that the other party would release them because of their 7 treasures and glass sect. Ji Wudao smiled and said, 7 treasure glass sect, what about 7 treasure glass sect? If your father and Chen Xian were still here, maybe I would still weigh a few points, but you don't have the right to let Tang San go yet. Subsequently, Ji Wudao released his soul pressure and exerted endless soul power towards everyone, excluding Tang San. In an instant, the 6 of them lay on the ground motionless. Ji Wudao crossed over 6 people and came to Tang San's face. The sword energy of the Breaking Sha sword was surging. Ji Wudao asked in a deep voice, Tang San, if you want to blame yourself, blame yourself. If you have any last words, just speak them out. Although he has almost forgotten the plot over the years, he will never forget Tang San. Tang San closed his eyes tightly. He had already felt the faint chill emanating from his neck. As long as the other party exerted force, they would accept his life. He was unwilling and didn't want to die, even though there was still great revenge to be avenged. Tang San has no last words, only hoping that after Tang San's death, Crown Prince can spare my other companions. Tang San knew he couldn't live anymore, but he hoped that the rest of the people could be safe and sound. Okay, said Ji Wudao, holding high the breaking Sha sword and about to stab it. First soul skill. Long sword strikes. Several sword energies rushed towards Ji Wudao's position. Ji Wudao suddenly dodged and took a few dozen steps to avoid the attack. As the dust settled, a sharp sword was inserted into the ground, and above it stood a middle-aged man. Swordsmanship, Qinshin. Ji Wudao only realized it later. However, Qinshin and his companions arrived at a faster pace than he had expected. After all, only 2 minutes had passed since he arrived. The son of Qi Yun is so terrifying. Little monster, you're almost going to die. An old voice came, and Douluo, dressed in green clothes, appeared. Damn it! Ji Wudao said. Tang San was overjoyed when he saw the three of them and said, Master Ning, Old Poison, why did you come? The Old Poison said in a deep voice, we were afraid that you would encounter an unexpected situation when we went to the Martial Soul Hall, so we came. Fortunately, we arrived in time, otherwise you little monster would have died here. Tang San did not deny it. Indeed, he had already been very close to death just now. If they hadn't arrived, he would probably have been the ghost under the opponent's sword. Daddy, Daddy, Grandpa Sword, this guy is going to kill us. You must avenge us. Having lost Ji Wudao's soul pressure, Ning Rongrong also stood up, but at this moment he was in a state of embarrassment. Being forced to do so by a title Douluo, Ning Rongrong can be said to have been the most embarrassed of his time. Chen Xian looked at Ning Rongrong with an unbearable expression on his face and said, Rongrong, it's all our fault for coming too late and causing you injuries. Later, Grandpa Jian will teach him a lesson for you. Humph, don't forget, there's also me, and the little monster, but we're old friends. This guy almost killed the little monster, and I won't let him go. Douluo said at this moment, as the other party had already been on his death list. Although Ning Fengji on the side did not speak, he had already released the 7 treasures of the Martial Soul Glass Pagoda. As soon as he started to take action, he could quickly apply bonuses to the 2 of them. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 5 Title Douluo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 5 Title Douluo. At this moment, a person dressed in yellow and another dressed in black approached behind Ji Wudao and knelt down on one knee, saying, I have seen the 8 sacrifices. This scene is said to be an assassination, and the martial soul will not hide. Anyone with a head and face knows that it was done by the Martial Soul Hall. After all, no one has done such a thing before, and no one can guarantee that their hands are clean. The 2 of them are not others, so it's natural that they are Chrysanthemum Douluo. There will also be Ghost Douluo. Chrysanthemum Douluo has been entangled by the Dragon Lord and Snake Lady and cannot escape, while Ghost Douluo is watching the battle from the side and has no intention of joining. But when they sensed a strong aura, both of them quickly rushed over and saw Ji Wudao. Ji Wudao was the most mysterious offering in the temple, but he had an iconic outfit, which was white long hair, a white robe, and a black sword martial soul. That's why they could recognize Ji Wudao at a glance. There are so many people here. I have seen Poison Douluo under his crown, Sword Douluo under his crown, Master Ning. Dragon Lord and Snake Lady rushed over at this moment, and the surrounding battles were almost over. A few people nodded, and Ning Feng said in confusion, 8 offerings, this person is actually an offering from the Martial Soul Hall. There are rumors that the offering from the Martial Soul Hall is not in harmony with the Pope's Hall. How come they are now united? Ning Fengji was very puzzled. Although the Papal Hall and the Apostolic Hall are two of the three main halls of the Martial Soul Hall, they are not harmonious. Today, the offerings in the Apostolic Hall have actually joined forces with the elders on the side of the Papal Hall, which is not good news. 8 offerings. I heard early on that there was a strong swordsman in the Martial Soul Hall, and it turned out to be the one in front of me.千仞smiled. Douluo on the side was completely confused and couldn't understand. Humph. Wudao snorted coldly, not giving the other person a good face. The relationship between the Apostolic Hall and the Papal Hall was not very good, and Wudao was still the #1 anti-papal priest. Ghost Chrysanthemum Douluo, if you look at me or at you, they dare not speak up. After all, their strength is not as strong as Wudao, and their identity is more prestigious than theirs. Offering in the temple is not something they can compare to. The power is stronger than that of a person. The other party is a worshipper in the temple, a super Douluo powerhouse, and they must be respected. Jiandao Qinshin, I've heard a lot about you, but I don't know which one is stronger or weaker between your swordsmanship and mine. Wudao's words were already very clear, and he wouldn't give up killing Tang San. Qinshin smiled and said, only by comparing can we know. The super Douluo in the temple of worship has been admired by Qinshin for a long time. Today, I will challenge the super Douluo in the temple of worship. Later, Qinshin held the 7 kills sword in his hand and was ready to use it. Jugui Douluo glanced at each other and said, Old Poison, let's also compete. It seems that this matter cannot be resolved today. Subsequently, Douluo released his true martial soul, while Dragon Lord Snakepa once again released his martial soul fusion technique, transforming into a giant dragon and directly opening up 2 battlefields. 5 Tidal Douluo, it's the first time I've seen so many Tidal Douluo. Oscar said with a gleam in his eyes. Today's trip was really worth it. Seeing the battle of the 5 Tidal Douluo soldiers broadened my horizons and also witnessed the strength of the Tidal Douluo soldiers. They didn't even have the strength to resist in front of the Tidal Douluo soldiers. By the way, Teacher Zhao Wuji, we need to go back and see Teacher Zhao Wuji. Dai Mabai said at this moment. You should know that Teacher Zhao Wuji has left them behind, and their lives are still uncertain. Then the 7 of them turned back and headed towards the position where they left at the beginning. In the sky, the 2 of them held swords with one hand and stood on the mountain peak. Wudao smiled and said, originally, Tang San was already in my bag, but I never expected that there would still be your 7 treasures glass sect.千仞held the 7 kill sword in his hand, and its meaning was stirring. He said expressionlessly, Tang San is a friend of our 7 treasure glass sect, so Tang San and our 7 treasure glass sect have been protected. The 3rd soul skill, sword spirit, is like flying. With the release of the 3rd soul skill, Qinshin rushed towards Wudao's position at an extremely fast speed. In almost an instant, she arrived in front of Wudao in the blink of an eye. The long sword swept across and slashed towards Wudao. Humph! Wudao snorted coldly, then shouted loudly, the 7th soul skill. Breaking Sha true body. The 8th soul skill. Sword opening the heavenly gate. I saw Wudao's soul power surge all over his body, followed by a huge soul power humanoid phantom emerging behind him. The sword pointed towards the sky, and the sky seemed to tear apart. From the crack, a huge sharp blade emerged, piercing towards the heart of the dust. Damn it!千仞angrily said, with a 3rd soul skill, the opponent actually activated the martial soul true body directly, and even released the 8th soul skill. This was not like a duel, but rather wanted to take his life directly. It's like playing cards. When you play a game of 3 against 3, the other party directly plays rocket, which blinds you. The 7th soul skill. 7 kill true body. The 8th soul skill. Moving mountains and filling the sea. Qinshin followed closely behind, not daring to neglect. The other party is completely taking his life, I can't tolerate him not taking it seriously. Subsequently, the dust heart transformed into countless virtual shadows, directly facing the sky giant blade. The two soul skills collided and made a loud noise, and the mountain peak was flattened. Qinxin stood in a somewhat disheveled position, her clothes already in tattered condition, panting heavily and saying, "What a despicable guy." Ji Wudao, on the other hand, stood tall in the sky as if unaffected at all, because he was the first to release powerful soul skills, so he still took advantage. On the other hand,千仞, who was one step behind Ji Wudao in releasing powerful soul skills, was clearly in a somewhat bad state. "Feng Ji, don't look anymore. Release your soul skill, the other party is fighting against me,"千仞said to Ning Fengji, who was watching from a distance. Ning Fengji initially thought that Qinxin would compete with the opponent, so he didn't apply any attribute bonuses at the beginning. However, what he didn't expect was that Qinxin wanted to compete with the opponent, and the opponent actually wanted Qinxin's life. "The first soul skill," one said. Ning Fengji didn't hesitate and immediately released the soul skill, even directly activating the martial soul true body, adding attributes to Qinxin. Ning Fengji at the soul saint level has directly increased Qinxin's attribute bonus by more than 80%. With an 80% attribute bonus, Qinxin can completely face two Super Douluo players at the same level without losing. After attribute bonus, Qinxin looked at the sky sword and pointed at Ji Wudao, saying, "Come again, the 8th soul skill. Moving mountains and filling the sea."千仞transformed into countless illusions and headed towards Ji Wudao's position, but Ji Wudao didn't hesitate and shouted loudly, "The third move of the sword technique, the first move, is a sword." Immediately, the breaking evil sword in his hand suddenly burst into a dark luster, and the towering evil energy permeated the surrounding area, almost forming a domain. Ji Wudao fought against several virtual shadows, and with one strike of his sword, he scattered one of them. Soon,千仞's 8th soul skill was resolved by him. The 3 forms of sword technique were the rewards he received through the system, each of which was very powerful. There was also the 9-character sword technique, but currently he only has the next 3 forms. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 9-character sword technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 9-character sword technique. In the sky, Qinxin and Ji Wudao had already finished their soul skill battle, but instead began to compete in swordsmanship. They both understood each other and fought equally, making it difficult to part ways. At least, with the assistance of Ning Fengji, Qinxin did not have the confidence to completely surpass Ji Wudao.千仞swung Ji Wudao away with a sword and murmured, "The opponent's swordsmanship is so domineering, more aggressive than my 7-kill swordsmanship. If Qinxin's swordsmanship is known for its speed and dominance, then Ji Wudao's swordsmanship is characterized by overwhelming force, powerful attacks, open and close attacks, and powerful and heavy attacks. It is extremely aggressive swordsmanship, even more domineering than Qinxin's 7-kill swordsmanship. It can only be said that both swordsmanship have their own strengths and perspectives. Qinxin, it's time to end. I don't have time to waste time with you here. One move will determine the winner." Ji Wudao stood tall in the sky, carrying a long sword with one hand and white hair fluttering, like an extraordinary expert who never indulges in smoking. But Qinxin, at this moment, his clothes were a bit tattered, and he was even more disheveled. He was beaten by Ji Wudao and retreated step by step. Even with the assistance of Ning Fengji, he could only achieve unbeaten results compared to Ji Wudao. "Okay, one move determines the outcome,"千仞responded. Ji Wudao smiled. Although he didn't kill Tang San today, this trip didn't come in vain. It made his Sha-breaking swordsmanship even more exquisite. Fighting against a swordsmanship master greatly improved him. "Take the move, Qinxin." The 9-character sword technique. 1-character attack technique, 2-character sensitivity technique, 3-character imperial technique. As Ji Wudao finished reciting, his momentum suddenly rose, and the surrounding soul power surged. 3 characters condensed by soul power began to appear around his body, namely attack, agility, and defense. As a reward for the system, the 9-character sword technique and the 3-character technique have been perfected over the years. The 3-character sword technique can increase his attack, agility, defense, and overall performance by 100%. Qinxin stood on the flattened mountain peak, looking at Wudao in the sky. The opponent's momentum increased, and he could feel that their strength was even stronger. The 9-character sword technique, this is your true strength, enshrined in the 8 sacrifices of the hall. Qinxin murmured. He didn't hesitate and shouted loudly, 7th soul skill. 7 kill true body. A huge phantom suddenly appeared behind him, holding a huge 7-kill sword in his hand. Chen Xian's momentum rose to its peak, and with the assistance of Ning Fengji, his strength was not weak. He could fight 2 opponents of the same rank. But he encountered the monster Wudao, and although the opponent's strength was equal to his, he always fell behind. The 9th soul skill. Divine and Demon Slash. 9 soul rings appeared at Chen Xian's feet, and then the 9th soul ring integrated into his body. A killing character appeared behind him, only appearing for a moment, and then the killing character disappeared into energy and merged into the 7-kill sword. The killing intent of the 7-kill sword suddenly increased. The 8 sacrifices hall is dedicated to the next most powerful attack of Qinxin's life. You must take it on. Subsequently, the martial soul behind him had already gathered momentum and was ready to be unleashed. Wudao didn't hesitate and smiled, okay, the 7th soul skill. Breaking Sha true body. Soul power teleportation, a large amount of teleportation. The breaking Sha true body is not like before, it is a virtual shadow, now almost condensed, like a killing god, with black armor giving it a more visual impact. The huge breaking Sha sword in hand has been raised high, pointing straight at Qinxin. The 9th soul skill. Divine Demon Breaking Sha Slash. A red soul ring suddenly appeared, and the crimson energy surged before merging into Wudao's body. 2 words appeared behind her. God, Demon. 1 black, 1 red, the 2 characters appear so I got catching in the sky, even the sky is now pale and shrouded in a haze. Subsequently, the words, God and Demon, exploded and merged into the breaking Sha sword, causing endless evil energy to surge into the sky, forming a vortex of evil energy. Qinxin, I respect your opponent, so this is my strongest attack. You must take it on, don't die. Wudao's eyes flashed with a hint of black energy. Then he shouted loudly, Divine Demon Slash. Chen Xian also shouted loudly, slash both gods and demons. Breaking Sha's true body suddenly swung a sword, and a black and red sword energy formed crescent-shaped, forcing towards the position of Qinxin. And Qinxin, the 7-kill true body, suddenly swung 2 swords with him. A cross-shaped sword energy was released, and the huge sword energy was full of Qinxin's understanding of swordsmanship. At this moment, Qinxin was extremely clear about her swordsmanship. The blue sword energy collided with the black sword energy, causing sand and rocks to fly around. The dust heart was shaken and flew out for thousands of meters, finally stabilizing its body. As the dust settled, a huge ravine appeared on the earth, about a kilometer long. It was blasted out by the remaining power of Wudao's sword energy. If it weren't for the 2 slashes of the god and demon in Qinxin, most of the energy would have been even more terrifying. After the battle ended, Wudao left. As for killing Qinxin now, it's not the right time. At present, their martial soul hall has not yet broken ties with the major powers of the mainland. If they kill Qinxin recklessly, it may make the major forces be on guard, and even cause a strong counterattack. Qinxin knelt down on one knee, then let out a hissing sound, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. His eyes were red as he looked at the ravine in front of him, which was blasted out by a sword energy. With lingering fear, he said, it's truly the offering of the hall of worship. Even the 8 sacrifices have such powerful strength, it's truly terrifying. In this battle, he lost, his heart lost, but similarly, the harvest was also huge. For his own swordsmanship, his understanding of swordsmanship has become even deeper. It is probably not long before his swordsmanship will reach a higher level. Qinqin wiped the blood from his mouth clean, slowly got up, pulled out the 7-kill sword that was stuck on the ground, looked at the huge ditch, and said, "Next time, I won't lose." He already had plans, whether it was a swordsmanship competition or a soul skill competition this time. He could believe that the other party's profits were definitely not as great as his own. When the Advanced Soul Master competition across the continent ends, he plans to return to the 7 Treasures Glass sect to start seclusion and challenge the next realm, level 97. He has already reached level 96 for many years, but cannot make any progress. Today's battle has made him realize a lot, enough for him to advance to the next level. At their level, the most important thing is to have a clear understanding. Otherwise, in the same level, it may take 7 or 8 years, or even more than 10 years, and one cannot make any progress. "Uncle Jian, how are you?" Ning Fengji rushed over at this moment and saw the blood on the ground and the disheveled Qinqin. He knew that this time Uncle Jian had lost. Qinqin turned around and said, "Fengji, I have encountered an opponent. In swordsmanship, the opponent is much stronger than me, but this time I have benefited a lot. The next time I encounter the opponent with your assistance, I will not lose." With Ning Fengji's assistance, he won't lose. Otherwise, relying solely on his own words, he admits that he is not a match for the opponent at all, whether it is the terrifying 3 moves of the sword technique or the 9-character sword technique. These 2 self-created soul skills are enough to prove that the opponent's understanding in swordsmanship is even stronger than him. But he is not weak either. 7-kill kendo is not weaker than the opponent's kendo. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Leaving. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Leaving, You too, we should go now. Wudao suddenly appeared behind Douluo and Douluo. He has finished the competition with Qinqin, and the opponent is doing well here. They are actually ashamed of being titled Douluo, and also entangled by a soul Douluo and a soul saint, and the 2 sides are still fighting hard to part ways. Wudao swung a sword energy and separated the Dragon Lord and Snake Lady who were merging their martial souls. The other person looked at Wudao incredulously and said, "How could you? When did they become so weak? You should know that their martial soul fusion technique is beyond even Douluo's control." The 8 sacrifices of the martial soul hall in front of them unexpectedly struck and ended their martial soul fusion technique. Wudao looked at Long Gong and Snake Pa, and then turned to Dugu Bo with a smile, saying, "This is just a fusion skill of martial souls. Can it be a match for Super Douluo? Is it the illusion they gave you?" After finishing speaking, Wudao grabbed Gue Douluo and left here quickly. In the blink of an eye, Wudao and his 3 companions had already disappeared into the sky. So powerful, is this the worship of the Hall of Worship? It's really not comparable to ordinary title Douluo. Dugu Bo said with lingering fear, probably the closest he had ever been to death just now. His Bai Lin Snake Emperor martial soul felt the aura of death, very powerful, even implying that the owner of the martial soul should run quickly, as if he would die here if he slowed down for a second. In the sky, Wudao grabbed the chrysanthemum ghost Douluo and flew quickly. At this point, most of his soul power had been consumed. With the assistance of Chen Xian and Ning Fengji, he indeed stabbed his hand. It was the first time he had used all his strength since reaching the title Douluo, which shows how important the assistance of the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda's martial soul was. If it weren't for the assistance of the martial soul of the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda, his most powerful strike would not have completely killed Qinqin, but it would have been enough to make the opponent on the brink of death. On the other hand, the siege had already ended, and after all, Xue Qinghe was the crown prince of the Tiando Empire. He quickly controlled the situation and guided everyone to start moving giant stones and restoring the road. Xian Renxue looked at Tang San and whispered, "Brother Ji has failed. This guy is really lucky." Looking at Tang San, Xian Renxue, who was intact, she knew that Ji Wudao's strangulation plan had failed. However, the reason for the failure was entirely attributed to another person. If it weren't for her, Ji Brother's strangulation plan would never have failed. The people she sent alerted all the contestants, so Ji Wudao's strangulation failed. At least, Qian Renxue thinks so. At this moment, Long Gong, Snake Pe, Dugu Bo, Chen Xian, and Ning Fengji walked over. Tang San and the others also saw it and walked over one after another. Ning Rongrong was the first to ask, "Grandpa Jian, how is the person who wants to kill San Gu? Did you kill him?" Qinxin glanced at her tattered clothes, and Ning Fengji's face was also heavy. Ning Rongrong felt something was wrong and asked, "Father, did Grandpa Jian not kill that bad guy?" Everyone's gaze instantly focused on Ning Fengji, especially Tang Sanqi and Longgong's snake lady Dugu Bo, who sighed. If they had really died in the hands of Chen Xian, then the other party would not have taken away Ju Gui Douluo. "Let me talk," Chen Xian spoke, looking at Ning Rongrong and saying softly, "Rongrong, Grandpa Jian has disappointed you. Even if Feng Ji assists me, I am not a match for the other party. I think if the other party has played enough, Grandpa Jian might not be able to come back today." Ah! Tang Sanqi and his companions were all shocked. Tang San asked, "Senior Sword Douluo, is that person really so powerful? You are a super Douluo at level 96, and with the assistance of Master Ning, why are you still not a match for the opponent? You should know that Qinxin is already the most powerful title Douluo he knows, and the other party is even stronger than Qinxin. Moreover, with the assistance of Ning Fengji, they even lost. What level is the other party? Is it level 97 or level 98? Tang San had a feeling of surviving the disaster. Even the senior swordsmen were not opponents of the opponent. If it weren't for the timely arrival of the senior swordsman, Tang San would probably have been a dead person. Ning Rongrong also agreed and said, "Yes, Grandpa Jian, is the other party really so strong? And with the help of his father, is he really so strong?" Ning Rongrong was a bit scared. You should know that he faced the other party directly and had no taboos. The main reason was because he had Sword Grandpa, Bone Grandpa, and Father, a Soul Saint auxiliary type strong person. And what she heard was that Grandpa Jian, with his father's assistance, was not actually a match for the other party. Qinxin nodded without denying, saying, "That's right, I'm not his opponent. If it weren't for Fengji's assistance, I might have died directly in his hands. He deeply understands that the opponent's strength is too strong. Without Ning Fengji's assistance, he may really die in the opponent's hands, and even if he doesn't die, he will be seriously injured." Ning Fengji interrupted at this moment and said, "All right, Rongrong, why are you so immature? Your Sword Grandpa just went through a big battle and needs to rest. Don't ask further questions. After all, losing to others is not honorable, and it is also the elder protector of their 7 treasures glass sect." The crowd nodded without further questioning, while Ning Fengji rested on the stone beside Chen Xian. "Fengji, I can't quite understand why the Papal Hall and the Apostolic Hall would unite. If they do, the entire continent would be in danger," Chen Xian asked. In his understanding, although the Martial Soul Hall is powerful, there is internal discord. The Papal Hall and the Apostolic Hall are simply 2 administrative units, which can be understood as one country with 2 governments, and no one is convinced. If there is a conflict between the Papal Hall and the Apostolic Hall, it's okay. If we unite, it would be a disaster for the entire continent. Ning Fengji took out a water bag from the Soul Guide and handed it to Chen Xian, saying, "Uncle Jian, I don't think there is any unity within the Martial Soul Hall. The target of this 8 sacrifices is Tang San, and the target of the Jugue Douluo is all the contestants. I think they are not united, but to some extent, they have come together in a plan. Ning Fengji's analysis is very reasonable, and the fact is indeed so. Ji Wudao almost wanted to stagger from Jugue Douluo, but he didn't expect that the other party would take action in advance, which created the illusion of the alliance between the Papal Hall and the Sacrificial Hall. Qinxin nodded, took a sip of water, and said in a deep voice, "If that's really the case, I'm afraid the Apostolic Hall and the Papal Hall will unite. It will be our disaster then." There are many titles of Douluo in the Martial Soul Hall, and as the head of a sect, there are also elders who protect the sect, both of them understand. At present, there are 8 major offerings in the Sacrifice Hall, each with a minimum level of 96 Super Douluo. If it weren't for the opponent's lack of ideas about the mainland, the current pattern of the mainland would have been changed long ago. If the Martial Soul Hall had ideas about the mainland, it would only have the strength to defeat one of the enemies by gathering 3 sections. The 3 previous sects are united in their spirit. As for the Papal Palace, Bibidong is a Super Douluo, and his strength is unknown for the time being. Most importantly, there is also a group of elders under him, and each elder is a titled Douluo. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Martial Soul Hall, you already have the way to take death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Martial Soul Hall, you already have the way to take death. If the 2 major groups really unite, regardless of which faction, facing the Martial Soul Hall alone would be a huge disaster. Merely offering the 8 sacrifices has already made Qinxin so embarrassed, and there are 7 more who are not inferior to the 8 sacrifices. It can be imagined that they are not something that their 7 treasures glass sect can face. Even if the upper 3 sects unite, they only have the strength of 1 enemy. The upper 3 schools, to put it nicely, are the most powerful sects on the mainland. To put it bluntly, they are 3 relatively powerful sections. Compared to the transcendent power of the Martial Soul Hall, they are not even a star or a half. At this moment, Tang San walked over and bowed to Ning Fengji and Qinxin, saying, "Tang San would like to thank Master Ning and Master Sword Douluo for rescuing him. If it weren't for you, Tang San would have been a dead person now." Master Ning and Master Sword's great kindness to Tang San is unforgettable to Tang San. Ning Fengji and Qinxin both smiled. Ning Fengji's favorite character was Tang San, who was known for his kindness and gratitude, and knew who was good to him. "It's nothing, it's just a matter of lifting a finger. There's no need to worry about it. You're a friend of our 7 treasure glass sect and have a great kindness to Ning Rongrong. Tang San, you're in danger. Our 7 treasure glass sect wouldn't choose to stand idly by," Ning Feng chuckled. Tang San arched his hand and said, "Master Ning, Tang San has something to ask for. I hope Master Ning agrees." Ning Fengji and Qinxin were both curious. Ning Fengji asked, "Although it's possible, as long as it's something that our 7 treasures glass sect can do." Tang San smiled and said, "Master Ning, it's not a big deal. It's just that Tang San wants to know who wants to kill me, why they want to surround us, and there are other contestants." Upon hearing this, Ning Feng was taken aback. Even Chen Xian, who was drinking water next to him, was taken aback. They didn't expect Tang San to ask this question. As long as Tang San's strength reached a certain level, he would naturally know, and it was not a secret. Tang San hesitated as he looked at Ning Feng and asked, "Does Lord Ning have any unspoken secrets? If it's not convenient to say, then forget it." Ning Fengji waved her hand and said with a smile, "There's nothing to say. I just didn't expect that the question you were going to ask was actually this. It's not a secret that you will naturally understand when you reach a certain level of strength." Tang San perked up his ears to listen. After all, the other party wanted his life. The other party already had a way to kill him. If his strength reached in the future, he would seek revenge, otherwise he would swear not to be a human. "Do you want to know which one?" is it the one who surrounded you or the one who wants to kill you? Ning Fengji asked. Tang San looked at Ning Fengji in confusion and said, Master Ning, is there any difference? Ning Fengji smiled and said, there's no difference. Since you want to know, I'll tell you everything. First of all, the orders that surround you are from the Martial Soul Palace and the Pope's Palace. The two titled Douluo are the second generals of Huma under the Pope Bibidong. Ju Douluo and Gue Douluo are both at level 95 and have extremely powerful martial soul fusion skills. At this point, Ning Fengji stopped and looked at Tang San. Upon hearing this, Tang San was greatly surprised to find that it was actually done by the Martial Soul Hall. He never expected that the Martial Soul Hall would take action at this time. Aren't they afraid of becoming targets of criticism on the mainland? Master Ning, are the Martial Soul Hall not afraid to become targets of criticism on the mainland? And are they not afraid of retaliation from other forces? Tang San looked at Ning Fengji with a puzzled expression in his eyes. Ning Fengji smiled, this is the funniest joke he has ever heard. Who dares to retaliate against the Martial Soul Hall? It's only your carefree father, and now your identity should also be exposed. Looking at Ning Feng with a bitter smile, he asked Tang San, what's wrong, Master Ning? Ning Fengji waved his hand and said, is the Martial Soul Hall afraid of revenge? As the most transcendent force on the mainland, the Martial Soul Hall is not afraid, and what you said about the Martial Soul Hall doing this will become a target of public criticism, let alone a possibility. Is there still a lack of such things done by the Martial Soul Hall? Are other powerful hands clean? I cannot guarantee that our Seven Treasures Glass sect has done what the Martial Soul Hall has done. This is a tacit promise, and we cannot speak openly about it. As long as there is no tearing of the skin, how fierce the competition is in the dark, and still a smiling face on the surface. After listening, Tang San finally understood that the Martial Soul Hall was definitely not a good force, but an evil force. I don't know how many people died at the hands of the Martial Soul Hall, let alone that he had a deep hatred towards it. He swore that he would definitely destroy the Martial Soul Hall and not let it poison the mainland again. At this moment, Tang San asked, Master Ning, there's one more thing. Which faction is the one who wants to kill me? This is something he is more concerned about. He didn't offend anyone. Who had such a big hand to directly dispatch a title Douluo, who is even more powerful than the senior swordsman Douluo, to kill him, an unknown little figure. Ning Fengji replied, this is another thing I want to tell you. What you think of as the Martial Soul Hall is only the Martial Soul Hall, and what you don't know is that the Martial Soul Hall is divided into 3 halls, namely the Douluo Hall. The dead Douluo Hall that feeds the dead can be buried in the Douluo Hall, the Papal Hall, which is what I told you, and the 3rd hall is the Sacrificial Hall that wants to kill you. Tang San quickly found the most crucial part from Ning Fengji's words and asked, Master Ning, can you tell me that this siege was not commanded by one person, but by 2 people? You can think of it this way. Although on the surface, the Martial Soul Hall is actually the same as the Martial Soul Hall, it has 2 administrative units, namely the Pope's Hall led by Bibidong, and the other is the Worship Hall. The 2 halls are not harmonious, and if the 2 halls were to unite, the whole continent would probably be stirred up and turned upside down. What Ning Fengji said was not sensationalism, but reality. If it weren't for the discord between the 2 empires, the mainland would be even more chaotic now, and the Martial Soul Hall would definitely become a powerful force even stronger than the 2 empires. Tang San understood that the order to surround and kill them was from the Pope Bibidong of the Martial Soul Hall, and the intention to kill him was from the Hall of Worship of the Martial Soul Hall. Thinking about it, Tang San felt a bit scared. However, I have some confusion. The people who worship the temple have hardly appeared on the mainland for decades. Why do they want to kill you? What did Tang San do before? This is the most confusing part for Ning Fengji. Tang San is clearly a soul master with a powerful talent for twin martial souls, and he is also Tang Hao's son. Despite this, there was no action before worshipping the temple. Why kill Tang San now? Is it because Tang San's talent is too good, afraid of becoming a threat to the martial soul hall? How to think about it, Ning Fengji couldn't figure it out. With Tang San's talent, to put it higher, he was a level 99 extreme Douluo. Despite this, he couldn't shake the position of the martial soul hall, and it made the sacrifice hall feel a sense of crisis. If Ji Wudao were here, she might say, indeed, a extreme Douluo cannot shake the position of the martial soul hall, but a god can. And it's also a powerful divine king with dual deities. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Cultivation Methods of Twin Martial Souls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Cultivation Methods of Twin Martial Souls. In the majestic and magnificent hall, Bibi Dong was dressed in a white long dress, showcasing her figure to the fullest. Her purple long hair draped over her shoulders and waist, and her figure was full. In her hand was the staff symbolizing the highest power of the entire martial soul hall. The top of the staff was inlaid with purple gemstones, giving Bibi Dong a touch of a superior aura. At this moment, Bibi Dongduan was sitting at the tea table, sipping tea carefully. The reason why she wore this dress was mainly to meet someone who was extremely important to her. She had already known that the other person would come to see her, so she had been waiting in the hall for a long time. At this moment, a maid walked in, knelt on one knee, and respectfully said, "Under the Pope's crown." Someone outside said they were old acquaintances under the Pope's crown and wanted to meet. Bibi Dongmei's pupils flickered with a hint of softness, and this scene stunned the maid kneeling on one knee. I didn't expect such a gentle scene to be seen under the high and mighty Pope's crown. Bibi Dong put down the teacup in his hand, lifted his vermilion lips lightly, and said, "Let him in." "Yes, under the Pope's crown." Then the maid walked out. In no time, a man walked in. He was dressed in black and was a middle-aged man with sparse hair, carrying both hands on his back, and a serious expression on his face. "Donger, how have you been these years?" The middle-aged man whispered. Seeing such a scene, Bibi Dong's indifference was false, but it had already passed. Bibi Dong stood up, holding the scepter in her hand, and a noble aura rushed towards her. She coldly said, "Donger, did you also call me the Pope? Please call me the Pope." Bibi Dong's aura is imposing, where can a soul lord parry? At this point, Yu Shaojiang absorbed Tang San's spiritual medicine and was already a soul lord. His aura instantly withered again, not in line with the serious expression on his face just now. He said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, how have you been these years?" At first, he abandoned Bibi Dong because he couldn't bear the humiliation of the martial soul hall. Although many years had passed, he felt regretful. If he had been a little brave in the past, perhaps we wouldn't have met in this way now. Bibi Dong sneered, and a hint of abnormality flashed through her beautiful pupils as she looked at Yu Shaojiang and said, "How are you doing? I am now above 10,000 people, under the revered Pope's crown. How could it be bad?" In fact, she really wants to say that she is not doing well, suffering from the ravages of Chihiro's illness, and even being appointed as the Pope's crown prince of the martial soul hall in the face of danger. Although it may seem glamorous, the martial soul hall is not just following her orders. She questioned, "Yu Shaojiang, have you heard that you have come back to life with that woman?" She knew that she had always known about the relationship between Yu Shaojiang and Lu Erlong. Over the years, she had been paying attention to Yu Shaojiang. If it weren't for her secret help, Yu Shaojiang wouldn't have become a jade master admired by ordinary soul masters on the mainland. Upon hearing this, Yu Shaojiang was taken aback and said, "Under the crown of the Pope, we are not resurrected, but I have come to understand our true intentions. We love each other." Upon hearing this, Bibi Dong sneered and said, "You are in love, so what am I? Why did you do such a thing back then?" After 2 interrogations, Yu Shaojiang felt a bit confused and said, "Donger, I know I'm sorry for you, I'm sorry, but we're already in the past, and I have an important matter to attend to today. When Bibi Dong heard the 3 words past tense, he immediately became angry. She is in the past tense, and what is that woman? And she also knows that their relationship is completely out of place. You would rather be with this out-of-place person than look at me. I can't say it, please call me the Pope's crown. A surge of soul power surged, and Yu Xiaojiang took a few steps back before finally stabilizing his figure. Of course, Bibi Dong did not use all her strength, otherwise her soul power alone would be enough to kill Yu Xiaojiang in front of her. Master Yu, we don't have anything to talk about. Please go back. Bibi Dong turned around after speaking. Meidong's eyes were filled with a hint of disappointment, thinking that the other party was here to reminisce with her. Now it seems that they are not here, but have a request from her. Thinking of this, Bibi Dong felt uncomfortable in his heart. If it weren't for his request, he probably wouldn't have come to see her in this lifetime. Under the crown of the Pope, I really have something to ask of you, even considering our years of friendship, please help me. Yu Xiaojiang pleaded. This matter is crucial and will affect the cultivation of his disciple Tang San in the future. He is no longer able to provide any help to Tang San, and the only help he can offer is probably to refuse the issue of the twin lives martial soul backfire. And the only one on the mainland who possesses twin martial souls and has not suffered from the backlash of martial souls is the one in front of him, Bibi Dong, under the crown of the Pope in the martial soul hall. Upon hearing these words, Bibi Dong's heart softened and he asked, let's listen. Upon hearing this, Yu Xiaojiang finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, under the crown of the Pope, I have an apprentice who is also the owner of the twin martial souls. According to my investigation, every owner of the twin martial souls will be devoured by the martial souls, explode and die. The only one who has not been devoured by the martial souls and become the ultimate powerhouse is you, so please tell me the method. As soon as she said this, Bibi Dong, who was facing away from Yu Xiaojiang, frowned tightly. Her hand holding the scepter suddenly exerted some force, and she turned around and glared at Yu Xiaojiang angrily, saying, Yu Xiaojiang, I think you should know his identity. Tang Hao's son, the enemy of our martial soul hall, has told you the cultivation method of twin martial souls. Is it to nourish the enemy of our martial soul hall? Give up. Yu Xiaojiang was like falling into an ice cave, pleading to look at Bibi Dong, like a clown, under the papal crown. I know Tang San's identity, but Tang San is everything to me. I have no choice, even though he is your enemy, so for me, even if it's for me, tell me. Bibi Dong was extremely angry and laughed back, saying, Yu Xiaojiang, you look up to yourself so much. For you, you useless person, let us have a powerful enemy in our martial soul hall. I tell you it's impossible. Upon hearing Bibi Dong call himself a waste, Yu Xiaojiang felt humiliated and angrily said, Bibi Dong, you don't care. Just tell me the cultivation method of twin martial souls, and I promise that Tang San won't be enemies with your martial soul hall. Give up, I have already dispatched soul masters to surround and kill those contestants. Everything will threaten our martial soul hall in the future. I will not be lenient, and Tang San is also among them. Now it is already a corpse. Upon hearing these words, Yu Xiaojiang felt like his heart was twisted with knives and his eyes were red. He couldn't believe that Bibi Dong was such a ruthless woman. It was clear that she wasn't like this before. End of this chapter.